Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the budget workshop of the Village of Ruidoso. It's 9 o'clock, April 27th, and we've got some drizzling rain and looks like maybe a little snow on the mountain, so hopefully we'll have that fire put out pretty quick. So if you'll join me for a moment of silence, and then we'll do the pledge to the flag. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the near symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. All right, thank you, everybody. Mr. Santa, roll call, please.
Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Letterman.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Cornelius.
Here.
And Councilor Salas is also here with us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, he just stepped out and told us to proceed.
and we should be expecting Dr. Jackson also, Mayor. So
Okay.
we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our agenda item is discussion and presentation of the fiscal year 2022 Village of Ruidoso operating budget. And something I've been remiss in, I need to certify that notice was given in compliance with sections 1015.1 through 1015.4 NMSA 1978, a resolution 2021-01. If you are an individual, do I need to read all this?
You may, Mayor.
Okay. With a disability who is in need of a reader, amplifier, qualified sign language interpreter, or any other form of auxiliary aid and service to attend or participate in the hearing or meeting, please contact the village clerk at least 1 week prior to the meeting or as soon as possible. Public documents, including the agenda and minutes, can be provided in various accessible formats. Please contact the village clerk if a summary or other type of accessible format is needed. All right, we will proceed and move on with.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may, Mayor, this year, we did meet with the directors in our pre-budget meetings, and the general direction that we provided for them as guidance and preparation for this meeting was to, work off their historic expenditures and make a flat recommendation on historic numbers moving forward for your consideration. And then we did the same thing. We went back, Judy went back and did her projections on the revenue sides based upon the historic information as well.
Okay.
So I just wanted to kind of give you a explanation of how we put this together. As you all are aware, the budget is one of the authorities of the governing body. And, so we prepare this information for you, provide it for you, and then look for your direction.
Okay.
So included in your packet was a budget recap, and it's a very colorful page. It is actually a summary by fund and category of the actual budget worksheet report, which is the detailed line item budget that we'll be looking at today. And as you know, a lot of focus is usually on the general fund because that is the main operating budget of the village. And so we will probably be looking at the revenues for the general fund first. And as you know, gross receipts tax makes up about 56% of our total general fund budget. And as you know, as you know, even though we have been living through this pandemic, we have actually collected in DRT 12.2 million so far. we have reached our budget of 10,207,000. And we still have 2 more months, of collections. So when I was looking at GRT, we did, look at a 5-year trend, and looked at, pulling out the GRT windfall, with the grocer. And even then, we were still seeing a growth rate of at least 5% each year. So when I look at the projections for GRT, you'll see they're not dramatic, but they are considerable over what we currently budgeted for GRT, for the new year. In the general fund for itself, I have budgeted 8.4 million in GRT, whereas in the current year, we are considerably under that, although I know that we've already met our budgeted amounts for the year. So some of the GRT line item budgets are the 40204 account, the 40304 account, which is the infrastructure, and then another 404 gross receipts tax line item. And our focus would be on our state GRT, which is 41005. So when we're looking
Judy,
at those.
Are you on page 5?
Judy, hold on a second.
Okay,
Page 5, Joe.
Are you on page 5?
it is
Page 2.
of the budget worksheet.
Yep. Yes. Because we went from the very colorful recap real quick to, I must have misheard, didn't hear it come up. So we're on page 5, I think, everybody.
When you say 5, is that 5 of the handout or page 5 on the budget worksheet? Because there's a page number on the bottom too of the worksheet, because it'll say
Okay.
one of,
It says 124, and then in big bold letters at the, almost in the middle of the bottom of the page, it says 5. Budget work.
okay.
Five
Account
of-
summary.
5 of the packet, yes.
5
Oh,
of the
5 of the
packet.
packet.
Yep.
So as we go forward, know that GRT is budgeted at a historical trend of a 5-year trend. And in that 5-year trend, we had been seeing growth of about anywhere between 5 to 15%. Now, I didn't book or project at a 15% increase, but I did book at around a 10%. Now, this is just the first stab at the revenues. If we want to take a more conservative approach, we can, and reduce those figures down. If we do decide to do that, which is no problem, we might have to reduce some of the expenditures to offset the reduction in the revenues. But at this point, with the budget that I'm presenting right now, we are currently in balance, even though the general fund will be using 1.7 million in cash balance to balance the budget. Again, we do have in this budget some one-time expenditures for capital outlay, which would be a good use of cash balance. And we do have some other one-time expenditure type uses of funds, like for studies and different things like that. So overall, at this point, we are budgeted and in balance, but we can always make changes. I know when we talk about some of the departments, some amounts were left off, and so I will be adding those as we talk about the departments. But for right now, going forward, please know that we are in balance starting off, so.
Mayor, what I may point out to you is there's actually 4 positions that are proposed within this budget that are currently not funded or positions that have been created. The first position would be an additional project manager position. And you know, that would be in our capital projects department is what we're proposing. And then we also have 2 firefighters that we're proposing. Cody talked about it within the strategic planning. And 1 fleet manager that would work, between the airport and fire department. So those are 4 positions that are planned.
What do you
In
mean?
addition,
Yes,
What do you mean by a fleet manager?
basically a mechanic that would be working at the airport, helping with the vehicle maintenance for both fire and the airport, and, working on equipment as well. So in addition to that, we've actually, the clerk position, we've not requested to refund that. So that's a deduction that we're taking out of the general fund, but it comes out to an additional 3 FTEs within the general fund.
okay, and we're still fully budgeted for personnel at the police department,
Yes.
even though we haven't been able to fill those. Okay,
The only other place that we have a proposed increase in any workforce is going to be within the wastewater department with Isaac. We're adding in under the contractual services an internship position. The Joint Utility Board did support that as well. That's so that we can start getting people trained to start becoming, getting their certifications.
level 3 and level 4.
They have 2 vacant positions that they've had a tough time filling because of that. But-
And it would be an entry-level position with an internship and then certain criteria, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
I mean, I think that's a wonderful opportunity. If I had a grandson or granddaughter, I'd be saying,
Is
your
that
name
going to
on the
be
list.
through ENMU? Are they going to be taking coursework over there?
between ENMU and Las Cruces, Eric's been working with the university to try to create an internship program,
Good.
piggybacking off of what New Mexico State is already doing.
Yeah.
think that's a
it's
great idea.
Doña Ana.
But other than that, Judy, I don't think there's any other personnel changes that were proposed, correct?
No, the only thing that I need to add to our personnel figures, and I forgot when I was getting the budget ready. Do you all remember about 1 or 2 years ago where the legislature passed the increase to the para, a 0.5% on the employer and employee side? That is the only figure that's not in our personnel. So our personnel numbers will change a little bit based on that PERA increase.
and that was one where the state had all the deficits and they bounced it back to the municipalities that we have our para up to code. So rather than penalize the employees, the village decided to take it on the chin.
Yeah, the PERA actually changed all the contribution percentages.
But I thought we had a choice not to add it to the employees, current employees, for that additional, to make up their deficit. Is that not right?
I will have to go check on that one. But once I find out, I will let you know. For right now, I know it's on the village side. I will double check. I am not 100% sure that there'll be any impact or not to the employee, but I will find that out.
We talked about that. But I'd just still like to know, how is that even legal that they screw up and we all have to pay their bills? So anyway, who's your daddy? All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I got a question, Mayor. On the revenue side, Judy, for the pelt, it jumped up in the past 2 years by 3. How do we go from $10,000 in fiscal year 20 to 35,000 this year? What,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
is that because of the other property that we acquired, or how did that happen?
So the payment in lieu of taxes is based on the fixed assets of the joint utilities. So as we complete more and more projects or fixed assets, the value of the infrastructure is going up. And again, those assets are depreciated over a 40-year term. So in the last couple of years, we have completed a lot of big projects, and we have bought some land through capital outlay. And so the combination of those two have increased the cost of the PILT.
Okay. That's all I have for now, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else?
And so the project manager is just going to work, we'll have three of them then?
Right now, we have Karen, and then we have Courtney that's helping with project management. And then John Commander's actually the purchaser. So this would be somebody that would be focused just on capital projects, working with Karen. Karen right now is split between finance and capital projects. So we're really just at 1.5 FTEs for capital projects.
Because Courtney's doing all kinds of things too.
Well, she's spelling a little bit with Yvonne and then, Yvonne, you know, they've got shared duties and cross-training or whatever, but somebody that will be primarily focused.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we did do in reorganizing the clerk's office is, you know, we're building capacity in Courtney to assist with some of the duties in the executive office as well.
So did you say that because we're not going to replace the
Clerk position.
clerk, that we can take that salary and make it into 3 salaries?
It's not really making it into 3 salaries. You know, it was considerably higher, so we are receiving some savings on that.
Right.
And we haven't talked about redispersing that, or, you know, there's still, I think we still need to, you know, do an evaluation of Bertha's job description, Ron's, and Yvonne's, and then make sure that we compensate them fairly if they've taken on additional duties.
I agree.
So that's a process that we'll take a look at. But I think we've actually saved quite a bit in that approach. So,
Okay.
as in other areas, I think, you know, one of the goals that we had talked about working on is making sure that we, you know, through attritions, change some of those positions from
Yes.
directors down to managers and so on and so forth.
Because during the evaluations of some positions, we found out some people didn't have enough to do.
Right.
So and they were getting paid full-time for that, and so we're just looking at production and things like that.
Well, it
That-
seems
that's
like
a-
to me that would make the job a lot more interesting to be able to do different things.
Well, you know what they say about idle hands?
And that's some of the things that we've actually done in you know, a couple areas, you know, with a HR director, we moved that to a manager position, and Judy picked up some of those responsibilities, and Cheryl took on the other part of it. When it comes to payroll, that's the part that Judy's department took over. And then over at the airport, we basically did the same thing. We had a director, you know, now we put in Joe as an interim director or manager, and Cody is overseeing that department. But at the same time, we saved that director position. We currently have that admin position is still budgeted, but the admin position, you know, we've left that vacant for now. We have picked up those responsibilities by Bernadine, and, you know, Bernadine has taken on those additional responsibilities, helping out Joe, but she's also pretty much continuing the business or activity here at the convention center as well. In this budget, we're also proposing to take the convention center position and, you know, turn that into more of a whole position that would be looking at helping with a lot of the events and tourism activities and things of that nature as well. So,
Because we're already getting a tremendous amount of calls on people wanting to rebook and whatever. And I think Bernadine's here 1 day a week now.
she stays here 2 days a week, but she can pretty much do the business that she's helping Joe with can be conducted from here or from basically anywhere. She's been able to demonstrate that, you know, an admin aide, you know, can, you know, operate and help with several different.
Sure.
And then we're going to have to look at the staff that was here before I don't know if they're all coming back.
Mayor, our proposal with that is, we still budgeted those positions. But, what we want to do is make sure that we include those with the park staff and to continue to use them the way that we've been using them. And if there's a function or something that needs to happen here, then we would, get all that staff to work together to get those operations taken care of. With this budget, we're also proposing to, and Jeff's in the room, but we're proposing to transition Jeff into a full-time IT person working with us. And, if there's activity that has to happen here, Jeff can come and help with, the electronic type of and technical type of setups. But he would basically continue working with the radio station and village-wide helping us with the IT needs.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. Just don't break it to Jeff later.
And I think, Mayor, I think we've demonstrated in a lot of areas that, even working with the staff here, we're calling it, boundaries, if we ask staff, to go help wherever, and I think they've actually enjoyed it too, staying busy and, having something to do frequently or whatnot. And then when we look at the operations like Grindstone and, Ruidoso Safe,
Yeah.
then that gives them additional opportunity to make additional overtime money and things of that nature. If we have events where we can, apply that same type of strategy even to this place, I think it benefits the employees and then it benefits the village as well.
I agree.
And they've done a great job. David and Luis and Jeff, so.
So I just,
Yesterday, we had to call in a couple of librarians to go help with the call center.
Yeah.
We set up a call center and, it's nice when you have employees that are, flexible and working with us and, there's none of this, it's not in my job. It's like, what can I do to help? So, that's.
We got a new librarian. Or new, what is she?
Short-term rental?
Excuse me.
rental, I thought the same, like Mary of it.
Yeah, short-term rental gal.
Very
And so-
nice.
Who was that?
So that's just one of the things that I kind of wanted to express is that I think the way that we're using the workforce, and calling it like a no boundaries, but making sure that we're not, if we have employees that are coming from the water department, we're not charging it to the water department if they're doing an operation somewhere else, like a special operation, so that we're not having that impact in mingling those type of resources from an enterprise fund to a general fund or other type of services. But they're all working together and it works real well that way.
So you just code it different? If the,
Yes, they
if the
have-
water department is working, let's
Snow
just-
removal.
But, yeah, okay.
Yeah, then they have on the timesheet process, they have
Yeah.
a place to book their time as snow removal.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
So if I could go back to revenue again, Mayor, on page 6, I'm just assuming, Judy, that all, like the swimming pool and all the convention center requested budget will be filled in when?
So, once we get the word that we're able to, open, and if the decision is made that we are gonna open, then I can add those budgeted revenues at that point. When we were preparing this budget to begin, we were still, we weren't in turquoise yet. And so, instead of putting something there that might not materialize, I just decided that I would leave it out and then do a budget adjustment if, through this process, we were allowed to open up.
Okay,
So is there a final word? Are we going to open up everything, do you think, or?
Yeah, I think so. Go ahead, Tim.
Mary, it would be my recommendation that we don't fill in those numbers and use a budget adjustment to realize those instead of doing a projection on those. And, my recommendation is that even, at some capacity, even if we were at green, we would still open up at some capacity the facilities, the WIBIT and whatnot. But I think with all the information I'm seeing and what's occurring, I believe that we're gonna, be at 100% on outdoor recreation. I don't think there's gonna be a concern in a
No,
couple
that
months.
seems to be the mental process they're moving forward with.
But I think, leaving those where they're at and then just realizing those revenues as they come in is a pretty conservative strategy.
Okay,
Rightful and Mayor, we did actually include the personnel for the pool and the Whibbit in case we needed to hire people. So some of the expenses and a little bit of revenues in the Whibbit are actually in there.
okay.
And Mayor, if I may, what we are thinking of doing at Grindstone is looking at installing some of the individual items. Like last year we purchased an iceberg, and then we purchased a standalone slide, and it's like a rock climbing wall on one side. And so what we're talking about is some of the bigger structures, putting them out there, and then putting in a smaller section just for the small kids, and not putting in the whole big structure for the whole year. So it's kind of a compromise. And, one of the biggest considerations that we took into account is that those individual structures are easier to adjust as opposed to the big structure. We'd have to bring in the state police dive team to, if it has a 4-foot fluctuation, we would have to have a dive team come in to, make sure that bigger structure would be taken care of. So we're just looking at installing small pieces this year.
And they've already started hiring guards.
And the state police are scheduled to be here. It's the only thing that it costs us is their lodging.
But I know that Rodney's already hired several guards and has others in training or whatever. So you said you had that in the budget already?
Yes, sir, I did say that.
Okay.
And the pools department is 101, 150. And we'll get through there unless you wanted to jump to that now. I'm not sure.
You just continue on how you were,
Okay,
I was just.
and we'll
on revenue.
we'll jump into that.
okay. So you'll see in this budget, there's not a lot of grants, even though we might have some rollovers. We do not try to project any project or any grant that we currently have in progress in the current fiscal year, because it's too hard to project what we're gonna do for the remaining 2 months. So all those rollovers of all the grants and that won't happen until July, once this budget is approved. You'll see a big adjustment in July for the fiscal year 21 rollovers. So at this point, the only thing that would be included in this budget would be any new grants. So that's why a lot of the federal grants and state grants are empty at this point, because I had not heard about any new grants that we were getting in the new fiscal year. So as we finish going through the revenues, you will see actually some transfers in for admin fees from some of the enterprise funds, and those are based on their budgeted revenues with each corresponding amount. So overall, the general fund ended up with $13 million in revenues, and then transfers in at 1.7 for a total of around 15.1 million. As you look at each department, personnel for the general fund is making up about 64% of the total expenditures. So as we move forward, going into some of the expenditure departments, our first one is the legislative department. And that will probably be on your page 9, maybe?
Yep, page 9.
Judy, and if I'm not mistaken, this does cover the next March difference in salary. Did you include that?
No, I did not include it, but I can add it. I just need to get the figures. Because I believe, is it 3 positions that will be up
Yes.
for renewal?
A total of 4.
Me
And 3 of the positions,
and 3 of the counselors.
which is.
So it's gonna be the mayor?
What's that?
It's gonna, you said it's gonna be your position?
Yeah,
and-
mayor's position, Coughlin, Cornelius. Jackson, are you up? And Jackson.
But Judy, Ron and I will get you an estimate on that for that last
Okay.
quarter.
Okay.
Okay.
So those figures will go up a little bit. Included in the legislative department's budget are subscriptions and dues, and that stayed pretty much the same. The only big increase in that department were, I know a lot of you need some laptops, because I believe your laptops are, probably about 5 or 10 years old. So we had decided that we would put in a budget request to replace the laptops. So that is the only increased expense. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. As we move forward, the contractual services, that is where we pay for the PIO with the agency. And we do have some of the outside agency requests included in there, which includes the Ruidoso Midtown Association, which includes the 35,000 agreement that we have with them. And then it has miscellaneous about $40,000 available for outside funding that will be applied through, it'll come through the IFC as a recommendation and then submitted to you sometime in May, where outside agencies can apply for funding if you would like to continue that.
Mayor, I did those calculations real quick. That first line item, we should add right about 4,500 to that.
To the 42?
Yes. It's right about 4,500.
Okay, I will make that change.
So let me understand this, the contractual services, the 88,000 is the PIO and is that Midtown as well? And-
RMA, it doesn't include RMA in that 88,000?
Are we paying it out of there or lodger's
Yes.
tax? Oh, it's out of here? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then is that also Justin's fees?
No,
That's not Justin's.
no.
Comes out of lodgers.
That comes out of lodgers.
Okay.
Also out of here are the contract legal fees. So the legal fees for the village are expended through this department. And I believe the contract amounts at 155,000, I believe, with Mr. Zach. And then there's just a couple other random little items. The rent of the land actually is for the Moon Mountain lease. And that is at $5,463. And we pay that, I think it comes due every July 1st
What is
that we pay
Moon
that.
Mountain lease
Lease
with the state, $5,400, it's up from 51.
was the agreement that Batten
Got
made
it.
with them.
Got it. So on the legal fees, Judy, is that the 155, is that Zach plus any of the other lawyers that we have to contract with?
So right now, it's just for Zach, for his legal stuff. You will see later on in HR, there are some legal fees for some personnel issues. And then, of course, the Joint Use Board, which is the treatment plant. You will also see some legal fees in there for Montgomery Andrews and Henninghausen. So these ones are more or less the general legal issues, like when we have to review a contract or he's looking at some bankruptcy notices and different things like that. So just general purpose is what these funds cover.
Thanks, Judy.
Okay. So if there's any other questions, we'll just move right on to the next department, which is administration. So this is a group that encompasses the village manager and his staff. Right now, that's 3 budgeted FTs in the personnel.
Judy, I think
Yep, clerk.
Go back to page 10 of the
Oh,
packet.
I'm sorry. Okay, the village clerk, sorry about that. This is this covers 1 FTE, the clerk position. And as you can see, it did go up because of the anticipated election. You'll see that there was no election in this past year, so there's some $13,000 budgeted for the election expense. Other than that, the only other place that this department increased was in the software maintenance. And Ron, is that for the additional Novus agenda recording?
That's correct for the new software that'll be, once we get everything configured, they'll be able to go on to the website where the agendas are at and be able to watch, instead of going to YouTube, you'll be able to watch there directly from the website. So that's the extra software for Granicus.
you can actually go back and view previous meetings on that as well.
Yes. And make comment, there's places for different things, so.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, now we go to administration. And as I was saying, those are 3 full-time equivalents in personnel. And with something that's unique in this department, we do actually have a contingency fund in the amount of $50,000. So what we have been using that for probably the last 6 or 8 years. When you're creating these budgets, you try to think of every single thing that you might need, but a lot of times you just don't know when a printer's going to go down, or you're going to incur some additional expenses that you had no clue or were even on the horizon. So we have been able to use this little account in order to offset any of those new or unexpected requests coming from departments. So right now, the department will start out with this fund with 50,000. But as departments need help because they forgot about some kind of expenditure or something breaks down, we actually take that budget and transfer it out to the corresponding departments so that we have some kind of way to help the departments in a time of an emergency. So you'll see that in account number 51400. And also in this department, you'll see that the equipment rental is pretty high. And that's because they actually house the lease on the big printer in the mailroom. So you'll see some of the other departments will have equipment rental, but not probably at this magnitude. So other than that, I think it pretty much stayed more or less the same. There were some increases on the equipment rental and
How many vehicles are on the maintenance on that?
Just two.
Just two?
Just two.
Is that enough for oil changes and tire rotations and all that? I just had my oil changed and they turned me $250. Just went out of warranty.
I don't think I think Samantha's taking care of hers now, right?
$250, I like to have a cow.
Yeah, I think it's just mine and Ron's. I think it's just mine and Ron's. I think the Tahoe is not being maintained by community development.
Okay. So Tom doesn't charge an environmental fee?
Yeah, they charge all kinds of stuff.
Oh, well, it's that synthetic. I like to have a cow. I said, what are you talking about? I thought it was free. He goes, well, your warranty just ran. That warranty coverage just came out.
another thing that you'll see is that in utilities, the utilities for Village Hall are actually paid out of this department. We don't try to separate it into how much is finance, HR, and that. They are kind of the landlord for the building. So that's why you'll see some utility expense coming out of this department versus one in several of the finance and HR. You won't see that. So just FYI.
And so that's certainly not the total.
Yes, that is the total.
For the
what
entire
process,
building.
But
There's no way.
And when we do the new building addition, we'll have to make an adjustment, but at this point, I don't know what that would be. So what we'll do is we'll go a couple months in the fiscal year, and then if our utilities go up, then we will make an adjustment to that account.
Your utility's going up, gas is going up considerably. We just had Leslie Graham, Zia, to talk about that, so.
Is $2,000 enough for fuel for a year for you guys?
No.
It's not.
2,000?
That's what we got in here, $2,000?
This past year, we didn't, because we're pretty much locked down. I think we didn't do very much.
Yeah, but normally we go to Santa Fe and you guys drive around checking on projects in town and.
So if
That's
you
less
look
than
at the
$100 a
last
month.
3 years, in 19, they spent 1,200. And then in 20, they spent 1,930. And then, of course, year-to-date now is only at 1,000.
Wow.
I would say I only fill up, Ron, maybe once a month.
Once a month, usually.
Yeah. That's a big tank.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I fill mine up once a week, but. And gas is going up too, so yeah, you'll have to add to that deal, but, okay, I
And
get it.
this, we didn't put any travel in here either. We pulled that out last year. And the league isn't going to be doing any training. It's all going to be virtual this year. I don't know what they have planned for next year, but Even our fall meetings are talking about virtual, so.
I think that's good.
Maybe like next year, next spring, we may, start going back to some of those meetings where we have to travel to, but there's nothing planned to, at least for the next 6-8 months. If something changes, we can always come back and request a change from y'all. Or we can get it out of the contingency right off.
Now we know where we can get that money.
That's where we got the banner, we paid for the banners out of.
Okay.
That's funny. Okay, so
Go ahead,
moving on. Next department is judicial, department number 20. And this houses 3 FTs, the judge and the 2 municipal clerks. And
We didn't even.
I think, I'm not sure of has the new judge saw this budget?
No,
No, we didn't.
he makes 44.
44? Okay.
Isn't that right, Judge? 44?
Let me get the amount, that's set, let me get the amount, what it is. Hold on 1 second.
That would be weird because you got the total department at 135.20 and that averages out to 45.
It comes out to 53.
The judges does?
Yeah, 53,851.
Is that with benefits?
No, it shouldn't include that. in that
No, that's
figure.
just the wages.
They're all below it. It's just,
So what's the
I'm
increase?
sorry, I was looking at the wrong line item. It comes out to 43,992.
You are correct, the base pays like, 44,000,
And you said we had 3 employees,
yes,
so you divide the 135,200, that's 45,000 a spot.
One of them is at 55, Mayor, the other one's at 50. And then the judge is at 43.
Clerks make that?
Come on.
And we got 2 of them?
Frank should have become.
One's called a court administrator and the other's a court clerk.
Huh,
They make more than the judge.
yeah.
Mrs. Jackson, that seems a little odd to me. I mean, it seems very odd to me. I think the burden is carried more by the judge than the clerks, not to denigrate their duties, but I'm just saying the duties and responsibilities of the judge are greater. How do we rectify that? And frankly, if I were taking that position with the headaches that come with it, I'd be a little insulted.
Mayor, Council, what we can do is we can send out inquiry to the other
Yep.
organizations and see where their court is and their caseload. And then we could come back with a recommendation prior to the next election.
But her budget's only 13,000.
Are the
Maybe that's what she's
clerks and assistant, are they full-time? Because the judge really isn't.
That is true.
they're full-time and have all full benefits.
Yes, and what I would propose is that we look at the caseload for the judge and do a comparison to other similar communities and look at the caseload of other communities. See what that caseload is and then make a recommendation.
As it would, as it would reflect on both clerks and the judge?
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay,
if that's what you'd like.
I think we need to, yes. I think all of us are a little surprised at that. I thought there was discussion about workload and really one individual. So anyway, we just need to reevaluate that.
In that regards, Mayor, I think what, I'd also like to do is have a little discussion at some point in time in the other, communities that I worked in. I don't know how Ron handled it in his, or Judy in her previous experience, but You know, and I know that our current judge is really pushed for autonomy or whatnot, but the personnel always fell under our personnel policies. And, you know, there's just a little bit, you know, we're to provide for them and the administration and the financing of it. But that's not dictating how they run their courts.
I agree, because all I've heard about was how low the budget was, but she never included everything in the budget. This should be in her total budget, shouldn't it? Reflect her overall department,
That's correct.
and it never has. 'Cause you're looking at 261,000 right there. And all I heard about was, I forgot, some nominal fee of like 23,000 or something, so. Anyway, we'll dig into that one. Okay, thank you, Judy, come on.
So, going through, they did, include some, budget, in account number 51015 for non-cap fund fixed and equipment of 38,000. But that is all for the stuff at the Horton, which we'll take care of through, our funding for Horton, I believe. So that 38,000 might be able to come out, because we're already taking care of it, through our funding through the remodel. So she had included some chairs for the courtroom and a desk and a server. But we, actually are taking care of the server this fiscal year, because it kind of went kaput. So we already are taking that out of this current year, so that 38,000 will go away.
She also wanted a camera system, but you thought maybe we'd get her one of these old ones, is that right?
That was a speaker system.
Yeah, it was a speaker system, and I believe we are addressing the camera needs for the whole facility.
Okay.
So we've incorporated that into the project.
And is kaput an accounting term?
Yeah, that's when the computer goes down.
Or you could say, or Shrekley.
Mayor, I would recommend that we take that back to, you know, at least a historical type of value. And, you know, one of the things that Judy and I found out is that they actually hadn't applied for the court automation fees for the last 3 years either. So, you know, I think we need to see some efforts in that area. But I would recommend that we reduce that, you know, at least by 33,000.
What's court automation fees?
The court automation fees is a charge that anytime that you receive a citation, it's broken up into 3 different categories. I think it's 3, right, Judy?
Yes,
And part of it goes towards the court automation fees, which goes back to AOC, and then it's put in a fund, and each one of the courts can apply to that fund to receive a grant money to automate their courts. So we haven't received any of that money back for 3 years.
And that was just discovered, so that's another thing that's being addressed.
Has it been applied for?
This year, has it, Judy?
I made an inquiry, but, I haven't, heard whether we're gonna get funded or not, but I will follow up and find out for you all.
But that's a revenue, just like our other grants, Mayor. If we receive it, then we can recognize when we receive it.
Sure. Okay.
So on that one, I'd recommend that we bring that back 33,000, Mayor.
Is there any objections to that? Okay, can you do that, Judy?
So instead of 38, it's 33?
Yes, and we'll work with them to make sure that they have adequate furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We do have that SURF, like Judy said, set aside for those type of purposes.
Yes, we will make sure they get what they need. Going forward, everything else is, pretty much the same with the exception of some reductions. But overall, that was the only change in their budget. Now, I don't know,
That rain.
if somebody can, ask, Mr. Potter if he has any, requests. I have not, interacted with him yet. So Tim, if you can just have him contact me if he sees something that maybe is not included in the budget and let me know.
Mayor, what I would recommend is, we'll work closely with Judge Potter and, we do have that contingency fund set aside, and if he has needs that aren't foreseen in this budget, we'll work with him on that.
And we need to settle the question of, do we swear him in after midnight? Or do we wait till Monday? Is there any reason that, the municipal judge would need to be called on the Saturday or Sunday?
Mayor, it's my belief, and, I think that's more of a Ron question, but it's my belief you could swear him in anytime, just with the understanding that he takes the seat when she vacates the seat. So.
Did you read the same email I did from Sarah, that it was from the DOJ or from ABC or somebody, that we can only have one judge sworn in at a time because of our population? I'll forward it to you.
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't see it either. Mayor Crawford,
Curious why we didn't, that was our legal opinion, but I'll ask, I'll send it to you and we'll do a little research on it.
Mayor Crawford, I do have the oath of office ready, prepared anyways, ready to go, so.
We need to get that one. Here it is, right here. I'll forward it.
You're gonna need this more than me. I'll pull it.
Maybe you could invite him to the radio station Saturday morning, Mayor.
And we can just swim in then?
Why not?
Tim Keithley can hold the mic for you guys.
Okay. Judy?
Okay, moving on is, the next department is finance. This is actually 5 FTEs. We did take on, the payroll as Tim said. So we did, acquire that position that was being paid out of HR, and it was absorbed into our department.
So Mayor, real quick on that, it's not an additional FTE, we just moved it from, there was 3 FTEs in the HR department, so we moved one of those over to
So
finance.
how many FTEs do we have in finance?
5.
5? Okay.
The only other change in this budget, you will see under contract services, 1,500. Each year, as we issue general obligation bonds and some of our debt, I have to have an arbitrage calculation completed on our issuances. And that just goes to make sure that we're not issuing debt at a low interest rate and then trying to invest it at a higher interest rate to make money off of that. That's illegal. So this $1,500 goes to pay for the calculation that our arbitrage company does. And then we get a report that says we're in compliance with all the IRS federal regulations and we're not doing anything wrong. So that you will see it under my contract services. And of course, the annual audit contract is in there. We reserve $59,000 just in case there's additional work that is needed with the audit. However, we haven't had any additional work. We will be in our 3rd year of a 4-year contract with Patil, Brown and Hill. And hopefully within the next couple of months, the state auditor will be releasing the audit rule. So I will be able to engage into another contract with them. Hopefully we'll get this audit taken care of a little bit quicker than last year. But again, there is quite a time between when we finish the audit and the state auditor actually releases it for public information, as you all know. We did include some monies in travel and school and training and development. We have been sending some of our people through New Mexico Edge, which is a program that has courses designed for government employees. Some of the classes are about procurement, open meetings. We've taken on contracts, some contracts So some of my departments were brand new to government accounting. So they have been able to take courses through New Mexico Edge to gain that knowledge that they need. So other than that, our budget is pretty much flat.
Mayor, I have a question for Judy.
Go ahead, sir.
Judy, does that arbitrage rule apply to all our debt proceeds?
It's every 5 years, so there's some that are coming up. But yes, it entails all our issues. And it's a 5-year calculation. So depending on the time of issuance, I usually have a report that's due on one issue a year.
So it applies even to the court, the issuance that we did on the magistrate court?
Not on NMFA loans, just on the, like geo bonds and stuff like that. Any other questions?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, we're moving on to HR. And this is actually 2 FTEs. And I know, it kind of stayed flat. Now they did move some of the monies around. They have started to include the employee awards in here. As you'll see in account number 51015, 14,000. Those are for the holiday gift cards for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and then the service credit awards and the retirement plaques. That's what makes up that 14,000. And other than that, I don't see any other,
But I thought we changed one full-time employee out of here, which was originally 3, right?
yes.
And going down to 2. But what I'm looking at, the 2021 budget for the 3 employees, it's 270,000, and then it still has an increase of nearly,
Mayor, Council, we actually took that position out last year.
okay,
Yeah, so the year before it was when it was budgeted for 3.
okay.
Last year,
It was 2,
yeah, we went down to 2.
and now it's still 2. So it went from
Okay.
182, 194, whatever, to 117. And now it's up $4,000.
But Mayor, in the professional services line item here, and I don't know if Cheryl's on, but, you know, with the reviews of the personnel manual and the proposed changes that we're looking at in the ordinance, I think we're gonna, you know, be incurring more professional service. Do you have that somewhere else, Cheryl? You only put 5,000 in there, so.
We can take that up if you want to. At this point, about 215.
Are you talking about professional services?
Yeah, somebody to come in and help analyze our personnel policies and the different things that were, some of the contradictions that we have, and then all the different things that we're looking at. So you want to move it from 5 to 15?
Is Cheryl on there?
I don't see
She's in the
her,
office, but I think she's gonna expend more than that. You know, that's one of the places that we had to make some of the costs up. Out of the contingency was paying for some of those legal services for the police department and for the HR department. Do you remember, Ron?
yes, that is correct. So should I take it up to 15,000, you think? Because right now it's currently at 17,
I would say at least 10.
at least 10?
because your current activity, you're at 9. And I think it was right about 5 that we paid out of contingency. I don't recall, but I would say.
She also has some monies in contractual services that might be for the policy review. She has another 6,500 in the line item above it,
The contractual?
Yeah.
in contractual, yes.
Judy, are those, Ms. Jackson, are those consultants?
Yes,
I could not hear that.
Oh, sorry. Are those, Ms. Jackson? Are those consultants under contractual?
Yes, Hinkle Shanner,
oh, yeah. That's where it's
is
at.
that, Hinkle Shanner, is that? Okay,
Thank you.
yes.
I just thought
So do
that
you
was-
want me to leave it at 5 or still make it 10?
No, I'm comfortable. I just didn't see that before because that's,
Oh.
I would think we'd pay the professional services, attorneys out of professional services, but if she has it under contractual, then that's fine.
Okay. And then going through, the only other increase would be to recruitment cost. They're currently are budgeting 10,000, which is an account number 52025.
Ron, can you ask Cheryl to get on because, I don't know why, Judy, I thought we requested that they stay flat, but, we look at the recruitment costs, she went up on the travel and the training.
If we have people like, if we, let's just say the police chief, and are we paying for those people to come in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we pay for their flight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Where does that come from?
That will come out of this recruitment line item.
But that was started some years ago.
Yeah,
And
and we pay for their motel and,
Per diem and travel.
I think we're down to 4 that are gonna be traveling in, or up to 4, I should say. 4 and then
Judy, do you
there's 3
remember, is it
local.
4 or 5 that are traveling?
I'd like to.
At the last time I talked to Cass, there's 3 from the Fort Worth, Dallas area. There's 1 from San Francisco, and then there's another one from Roswell, and then they're not sure if one's gonna be in Colorado or somewhere else. So I think there's about 5 of them.
And then we have 3 that'll be here, and 1 that's in the county. Gary, and our other 2, and then 1 in the county.
But Mary, this travel, I would reduce that, my recommendation is reduce that travel down, just like we've asked in the other departments. The training, I think we do need to invest in some additional training in that department, but I don't believe we're gonna be sending people, traveling very much this year. So,
And that recruitment cost, does that include what we were just discussing?
that's gonna be in this fiscal year.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
That's true.
yeah, you're right.
But as long as we retain some of these guys, maybe next year too.
So Mayor, I'd recommend that we take that travel and schooling down to at least maybe 2,000. Leaving 2,000 in that. And then in the recruitment, I think the historic numbers were only at 18, that looked like previously were up to 7,000. So, maybe, taking it to 7, knocking off an additional 3 off of that.
You're talking about on recruitment
Yes.
to 7?
And taking that travel down to leaving it at maybe 2,000 in there.
Okay. I don't have any problem with that if Cheryl can live with it.
I
Since she's not.
I asked her to log on, so I'm still.
Oh, okay.
Well, if she has additional requests that, we should address that later on, but that's just a huge increase.
Yeah.
That's
that we've
7,000.
asked.
The only other thing I see is a NeoGov onboarding software, because the maintenance went up a little bit. And I think it's for some,
I definitely think we need to put more effort into the onboarding. It pays off when we, make sure that we're
That's the
being
training?
thorough. Yes.
so that is what the increase in software maintenance is for. Is for an onboard licensing and setup and training. And, that total increase is about 9,000.
Anybody?
Which is the increase in that line item.
Water, soda water?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Are you all good with that?
Yep. So it's just consent.
Yep.
Moving on to the next department is department number 40, which is the police department. Let me get the FTEs on this one. These are the guys patrol. And so there are, 22 FTEs in this department.
I thought there were 23. But it's 22?
This is just officers?
You said just patrol officers?
Just the patrol officers and the chief and the deputy chief.
Okay, that doesn't include
And
lieutenant.
lieutenants, and one of the patrol lieutenant.
But what about their admin? No, and none of the
Just,
dispatchers?
Those will be in, the next two departments, 45 and 47.
Mayor, the big change that we see in this one, compared to the 2021 is we added the deputy chief position.
Right, and I thought that's why it was 23, but it's still 22?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. It's 22.
But in police administration, that's where.
Oh, but that doesn't include the chief.
It doesn't,
Oh, no, it does include the chief.
It does or it doesn't?
It does.
what's that admin then?
So Department 45,
It doesn't include the detectives.
no.
So we still have, in addition to that, there's 2 vacant detective positions, 2 animal control, your admin aide, your detective patrol officer, which is currently filled, your evidence tech, your police lieutenant, your records custodian.
Okay, so it has in there a spot that if we're able to ever fill the
Yes.
drug task force, that we can pull out of that? And that's just a regular officer?
That is actually in 45, that body that goes to the task force, which is the next department.
In the 10145, yeah. LT Chavez, are you still on there?
Yes, sir, I am.
LT, where do you, which are your positions? Is it your vacant positions for the drug task force?
Yes, it's going to fall under Department 45, and it'll be one of the detective positions that's there that would transfer over to the narcotics unit.
Are those your vacant positions?
Yes, sir, that position currently is vacant.
How many positions are included in 45?
1, 2,
There's-
3, 4, 5, 6,
Nine.
7.
9?
9.
That does not include dispatchers. The dispatchers will be in Department 47.
Okay.
And that's a total of 13 for dispatch.
Okay, and so your admin aid is included in 40 or 45?
45.
45.
Okay. So 40 is just patrol officers, yourself, the lieutenant.
Actually, 40 would include the patrol lieutenant and then the patrol officers. That would be at Department 40. And then 45 would include myself, the detectives, and then the admin aid and records and ACO.
Judy, do we have the salary schedule for the counselors?
I can get it to him. Let me have Robin run some copies down there.
Okay.
Give me just a second. I know the chief's online. I see him there. So if he wants to talk a little bit about the budget anywhere, or if you have questions, and I'll get hold of Robin.
Thank you, Judy.
I have one working copy that I can show you here, Mayor. I got the other.
Okay, I've seen it before. I was just curious about the, what we're looking at as far as the qualified immunity thing. I mean, we haven't even been able to get any estimates from municipal league or anything yet, so what kind of contingency are we gonna look at for that?
Mayor, we haven't got very clear guidance out of that. We're still waiting for some direction coming from the municipal league.
So that'll just be a big budget adjustment?
I'm hoping that it's not gonna be that big. But,
So we're going to take
what AJ has been reporting, and, Counselor Evie's been sitting in those meetings as well, is that the people that have participated with the self-insured fund, we're not anticipating a big impact due to the way that they budgeted, and even when they start to look at our premiums, it's not gonna, we're not gonna be looking at an increase. They're actually gonna be offering a discount on it because of the way that the fund was handled before. So do you recall that discussion, Joe?
Yes, he was saying that, of course, you can't be discounted for self-insured because you insure yourself.
Yes.
He was projecting, and he gave some interesting facts as far as pointing toward historical events that really he doesn't really see that's going to be really a big increase in.
That's a 180 from what I heard from him before.
So we'll see how it plays out. He says basically he sees that the state is probably going to be sued more than the locals.
He was talking about the way that they funded the fund before, and that the fund's healthy, and that he's not anticipating that the members to the fund aren't going to have the same impact that the
At least this year, maybe.
non-members. I didn't totally understand it, but, they built up a big cash balance, I guess, where they reinvested or something, Joe? So
Yes,
that the current
Bitcoin.
very healthy and
Bitcoin. Mayor, do you mind if I take it? My wife never calls me, and she called me, so.
Yeah, no, you go right ahead.
I don't know if it's emergency or
he's
what.
anticipating the state opening themselves up really wide. They'll be taking a big hit, the state.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, we ready to proceed, Judy?
Can I say a few things, Mayor?
Oh, yes, sir, Chief. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. There was a few things that we went over in the budget with Judy yesterday and the lieutenant and my staff, and there was a few line items that kind of were a little bit complicated, I guess. We'd like for your direction to give Judy the authority to go in and maybe break up some of these line items so that we can actually see where the actual funds are coming from and make it more easier to understand. understand that we might be low in a certain particular line items, but Judy did explain to us about the line item budget adjustments mid-year that we can actually change. Just some things are a little bit more complex that we'd like for your permission to break up. Nothing that's going to move numbers or change things, but with your guys' permission, we'd like to make it a little bit more simple to understand. Sometimes the budget, we're taking things out of particular line items that are a little bit complicated. And there's a lot of complicated ones that I kind of would like for y'all to give Judy permission to change before we get this budget approved.
Which line items we want to break down?
We were talking about, let me see which ones we put here. Supplies, which are the ones we were talking, are you there, LT, still? Our maintenance budget, our software maintenance budget, our animal control, maintenance, equipment, this maintenance. Those are really the main ones that I have highlighted that we need to kind of break down particular items that we're taking out of there.
Software maintenance is only 500.
Are you there, Judy?
Yes, I'm here.
Were
now.
those ones we talked about yesterday?
Can you say those ones again? I just got off the phone with Robin.
No problem. Our maintenance, our equipment, maintenance, our building maintenance, our software maintenance, and the animal control ones, the ones we were talking about yesterday.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more complicated, if we could just kind of break those down and make them a little bit more easier to understand, to see where we're pulling the monies from.
Yes.
Also, safety equipment was another big one that we were gonna talk about. And our investigative expenses, and we wanted to kind of break down what was being utilized by the patrol department. Sometimes the patrol division asks for particular things, and we don't want it accumulatively with the investigation with CID. We want to be able to break down to see what the costs to operate CID, which means they're going to be a little bit more expensive because CID requires more expensive items such as fingerprint kits, what else? Investigative tools that we need to actually, for the bigger, larger crimes. Uniform is more of patrol, such as latex gloves, safety issues that they need. So we just want to kind of break those down. I don't know if that makes things complicated or makes it easier, but the budgets that I'm used to looking at make things a lot easier when you actually break down patrol to criminal to dispatch. That way you can see where the expenditures are coming from. So anyway, we talked about that yesterday, Mayor.
Okay.
So on round 2 of this budget, when I come back in May, you will see some of those budgets broken out between Department 40 and 45. In the past, they only separated salaries between the two departments. But it'll be a ongoing practice because we don't have any historicals of what CID and the admin side uses, so it'll be a learning curve this year, but we'll get it done. Other than, I don't see any other new increases. Everything else kind of stayed the same, it looks like. So if you have any other questions for Department 40? Oh, the only other thing they did ask in capital outlay, you'll see in account number 53001, they have requested 4 vehicles. And I believe the chief is looking at the whole inventory of the vehicles and trying to get them on an equipment replacement plan. For the past 2 years or so, we have been able to replace 4 vehicles at a time. And of course, this year is the same request, and it would actually be 4 Dodge Durangos for a total of $240,980.
Awesome, and we also talked about the vault, remember, the evidence vault?
Oh, yeah.
The what?
Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Okay, Mayor, Council, we're looking at trying to consolidate that evidence vault. We have obviously 5 different locations within our department. And in order to comply, we need to have everything under one roof, have a recording system put in there, and probably do some renovation somewhere within the building. Lieutenant and I and the staff are kind of looking around and seeing which is the most cost-effective way of actually complying with that evidence vault. But it's going to probably require some construction here in the future. So we want to talk about maybe adjusting the budget in the future to put some money in there and see what it's going to cost. We have not yet got any actual numbers or a location in place, but that is in the works.
Mayor and councilors, one of the funding sources for this construction that I did let the chief know that is available is in our correction fees fund, which is fund number 201, and we'll see it down the road after the general fund. There are correction fees that are collected through the court, through fines. And so each year by statute, I have to keep about $30,000 available to offset the cost of housing prisoners. Currently, that fund correction fee fund has about $80,000 worth of funding available. And if we just leave at least 30, statute does allow us to take any residual correction fees and transfer them back to the general fund for general purpose operating costs. In the past, we have been saving the money, and we have used it to remodel the interview room and to buy some computers for the police department. So if we do get a good cost or estimate on what the construction costs, we actually have that pot of money that we could take to use to remodel the evidence room so that it's not being pulled out of the general fund.
So that would be $50,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, I apologize, but I stepped out, but under this vehicle, Mayor, Judy, I thought we had put that in the capital fund.
We will. I just wanted to leave it here so that I remember to talk about it, but eventually that will be actually paid out of the SURF.
But that schedule that I looked at yesterday, I thought it was already in that capital fund.
No, it just, for this presentation on the department request, I put it there, and then when we come back in May, I will actually move it out of the general fund and put it in the SURF.
Okay. So is that how you're handling it with all the departments?
Yes, that's how it's handled with the departments. I wait until the actual council decides what outlay to purchase before transferring it to the SURF.
Okay, because I thought we were going to go over that one schedule that we looked at yesterday all together.
Oh, we can. If you want me to make the changes, I can make the changes and then resubmit it for tomorrow.
I'm just bringing that up because it looks like it's in this total, the general fund, but then as we're reviewing those schedules, you had it in a different section, so I just want to make sure we're not doubling the dollars.
Oh, okay.
Are we doing that?
No, not on this presentation.
Okay. I'm still confused because that schedule we looked at yesterday, you know, the total expenditures in the general fund, it looks like this is included, but then we looked at that schedule of capital purchases separately. So you're telling me that all those capital purchases are reflected in the funds?
Yeah, they're still in the funds because I haven't moved anything to the SURF yet.
Okay.
And I kind of like it this way, so I know what department requesting equipment.
Yeah.
Or at this moment, I should say. So that there, and then if at tomorrow or later that we look over the whole SURF.
Yeah, I was just a little confused because,
Right, well, yeah, I didn't get to see your list and stuff,
Yeah.
so I could see where that could get confusing for you. But Judy, I got a question on the overtime, the 40,000, this doesn't include what comes from lodger's tax. Do you add
Not
that
at
later?
Not at this point right here. This is just the overtime that the village will pay when they do receive monies from lodger's tax and they get reimbursed. At that point, I'll increase that overtime line item, offsetting it to the lodger's tax committee.
And I forgot what was requested at the last lodger's tax meeting or last month's meeting.
It was
Where
six-
they were doing all the
It was
the allotments.
60,000.
60? Okay. Thank you.
Plus, Mayor Pro Tem Mayor, they do get some, overtime monies from New Mexico Department of Transportation. And so when they work, the buckle up, the 100 days of summer and the DWI, if they work those, grants and then they apply for reimbursement, when I receive the reimbursement from DOT, at that point, I'll increase the overtime budget once we receive the funding.
Okay, thank you.
And Chief, the only input on the vehicles, if we're gonna, if they're, what do you call it, not listed, just, I don't like the ghost lettering, either don't have them identified or have them identified if we're gonna spend the money on, the stickers, you know what I'm
Chief, are you
saying?
there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm hearing it.
I'd just like to have that discussion. It seems like some of that's individually, but if the cars are unmarked, that's fine, if that's what they need to be. But, I've seen one in particular, it's ghosting, and you can't even see it, and I don't know why we waste our money on it.
Right. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of any ghost vehicles, Mayor. But yes, we will. My goal obviously is to get everything marked. I don't think we should have any unmarked cars whatsoever. But again, that's part of the plan, that there's just so much that we need to get done at the department at this point in time. And all those vehicles that we are asking for will go to obviously the working staff. It will not go to administration at all. We don't need any vehicles at this point in time. It's them that need the vehicles. They're the front line, and we got to take care of them first.
Mayor, along those lines, and, I think it's appropriate to go ahead and have this discussion. It's part of the, making sure that they have the resources to do what they have. But, now that the chief is working on the SOP, and it's, I think this is a question that we really need to see if council's okay with. To me, the more visibility of police units that you have, the
Yes.
safer the people feel, the community feels. And so, I totally agree with you that, some of the vehicles that appear to be unmarked need to be marked, for nothing other than visibility. But in addition to that, in the SOP, one of the questions that we addressed before, should police officers and first responders be able to utilize their personal or their city vehicle and personal time. In other areas, they are allowed to, go to the grocery store. If they have second jobs, they're allowed to go to their second job in their police unit. It gives a higher level of visibility. So that's something that I think that we've talked about, that, the chief and I've talked about. Is that something that you're okay with?
I mean, I'd be concerned with liability, as, with the visibility, but I do like the idea, that's about the ghosting thing. I would like to have that vehicle identified so people would see it. I don't care who you are, you tend to slow down and look at your speedometer.
Yeah. And how about the personal use? Because, like, for instance, myself, I'm very conscious that, I won't go to the grocery store in the city vehicle. I'll go home, drop off the vehicle, then I'll go to the.
Well, I mean, and I appreciate that, because I used to get calls, I haven't got them in a while, about city vehicles that are there in the afternoon, and the perception is they're doing something personal on company time, when in fact that person was off. So I just think it's prudent, and we've had this discussion many times about family personnel being in the vehicles and going to different places. I don't think that needs to happen.
Yeah, and how about, just say they have a second job and they go park a vehicle, the police vehicle at their second job while they're working and whatnot.
I don't like that idea either. The only thing that I think is in my mind is if they, because of the housing situation in Ruidoso, if they live outside the community and they're supposed to drive their car to and from, that we make allowances for some to be able to drive back and forth. But that's just me. What do y'all think about the driving it to work to a second job? And I don't even know if that's happening, but if it's,
Yeah, I don't think they should do that either.
yeah. Gary?
I was
That-
concerned, when you say liability, my ears always go up.
No.
I am concerned about that, especially when you have those in the vehicle that aren't there for a police reason. And then you're traveling about. In Clovis, they had a similar concern. They had police cars going around with lawnmowers hanging out of the trunk. Obviously, with the Durango, that may not be an issue, but I really think it should be dedicated to police work. Now, if they're taking it home so they have it available for an immediate call, if they're on call, I mean, that's a whole different thing. But just around town with family members in the car, if there's an accident, I think that really ups the concern, at least that I would have.
Thank you. You feeling okay?
Well, years ago, they did allow, or at least the one officer I knew and talked to, that they did allow for errands on that day, running to the post office or running to the grocery store. But I've never heard of, taking them to the second job or even the offer of that, just for that visibility effect that, and then too, most of these officers were living in town. They weren't coming from Capitan or Hondo to come up to do shopping and stuff like that, or go to the gym. That was the other thing that Kent would use his vehicle to go work out and stuff. And that's kind of where that was utilized back. I mean, we're probably talking a couple of decades ago and stuff like that, because there was not as many officers, and it did curtail the traffic speeding and stuff like that just on that. But using it, I agree with the mayor, using it more as a personal vehicle to haul around the kids, pick up the kids from school and stuff like that. I wouldn't go with that, or even with the second, hauling it to a second job. I'd rather them just park it right there at an intersection or something there with a dummy in it to, do that.
Okay, we really just wanted to get your take on it, and then we're gonna work it into the SOP. The SOP, doesn't appear to ever been brought before the governing body.
Right.
So our intent is to, make some recommended updates and changes, and then bring it to the governing body for approval. It is a policy, your standard operating procedures for the police department. So, the council is a policy committee, and for whatever reason, moving forward, we're going to bring it to you all.
And this would be village-wide, too.
The police department we're talking about separately, it's a little bit different, so.
Because, and I have a feeling, because I'm always calling and asking, why is this happening? But, when I see our company trucks and police cars pulled up in front of a convenience store, the individual, the employee inside, buying whatever in the middle of the afternoon, getting snacks or whatever, when other people are required, 10 and 2, or, they have a bathroom break or whatever, and you go out there and the car's running. That bugs me. And so that's what I was asking, is that, I was always told you don't leave your car running, and that's unattended, and that you sure don't leave the keys in it. So it's just things like that. I was wondering about brakes and whatever with the officers. I know that's a little different. I know Chief Hooker tried to explain time to me with the police officers. And I understand shifts, and I understand setting and watching traffic flow and all those kind of things. But as far as personal use is personal use to me.
Yeah. In the patrol units, is each officer assigned a car that's just his, or? Okay, so they don't share those cars at all? All right.
Well, back
If
when.
you have to share them, then they'll share, but normally you want, You want to assign a unit to a police officer, and that's his too?
That's his.
What kind of, chief, I was trying to remember Joe, Chief Joe, when he was here, he had, I don't know if it's once a month or once a quarter inspections on the vehicles, to, make sure that they were in, good, clean shape, and if there were any
Class A
issues with the
inspection.
vehicles, they were handled, and then that there was an award given. Are we gonna look at doing anything like that?
Mayor, council, yes. Right now, we're looking at putting a vehicle inspection together and a personnel inspection together. So when an officer comes on, they're going to be obviously inventoried, and they're going to be assigned particular things. So we'll have an entrance inventory, and then we'll assign them a vehicle with all the police emergency issued equipment that they need. And we'll be doing that continuously. Right now, I think that the huge thing, the big concern that we're having is to ensure that you all are aware and we're following your direction as far as policies and procedures. You are the policymakers of the village, so we want to ensure that the policies that you all will approve is what we're going to follow. It just takes a while to put those together. What Manager Dodge is explaining is that our visibility, because the size of our department is sometimes very we want the more visible officers and cars out there will help, assure or at least give a perception that we have a lot of police officers. It is complicated when they're doing personal things because we don't want them to go out there and find themselves in a predicament where there's a shooting or an accident and they're in a pair of shorts driving to the gym or something. That's not a good thing. I agree with you. Personal is personal. But visibility is, we're just trying to increase the visibility. That is a huge recruiting tool. I think Jude explained to me that a while back. I'm in a pretty good situation, I guess, as I'm the chief today, because we're not as low as we were in the past. Hopefully, we never get to that. Knock on wood. But visibility is very, very important. But we do want to create those policies that, at your guys' wish, to ensure that we use those vehicles for police services only. Don't know how it was in the past, but because we're small, we want to bring out some kind of, I guess we'll bring them before you and Manager Dodge, and hopefully you guys will agree and pass them.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to distract from the conversation, but I just wanted to we're working on that. I want to get a feel for what you all want to see in that, and we'll bring it forth.
Okay. Now, am I correct to assume that all of our vehicles have that new ticket system, where it prints everything out automatic?
Tracks.
What do you say?
Tracks.
Track. So we all have that in every car?
LT? Lieutenant?
Most vehicles have them, Mr. Mayor, Council. Most vehicles do have that capability to run them. Some of the older vehicles we have not upfitted because they're real high mileage and we're having some issues with them. But yes, sir, most of the vehicles do have that capability.
Okay.
Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at changing the tough books out. Is that correct, Lieutenant Chavez?
Yes, sir. That is something that we're looking at now because they are coming to the point that they're going to have to be updated.
And with that, then it's going to communicate and you're going to have more functionality with the GPS systems and whatnot?
Yes, sir. And we'll be able to talk back and forth to our reporting system because we're not able to do that right now. But once that upgrade happens, we would be able to do all those functions with them from the patrol vehicle itself.
And that coincides with the upgrades that just occurred at the communication center.
Okay, great. So LT or Judy, I'm not sure whose this question is, but there was a grant if we went back to the black and whites on the paint scheme on the vehicles. Is that still available? Are we still utilizing that?
That was several years ago through the Department of Justice. I'm really not sure. I've been out of the loop with that. The last administration was more involved with that. So I'm really not sure if that's still available. I'm sure there are some grants out there for it, but I don't know to answer your question specifically. What you're talking about, I knew that it was in effect probably 5-6 years ago. It was a while back.
Wow, I didn't know it'd been that long.
Is there a preference to go back to the?
No, I like the black and white, that it lets everybody know it's police. When you get into all these blue and these different golds, and you don't know if it's the cable company or, who, but when it's black and white, they have a good indication. And
I like
if we're talking about visibility, it will go a long way with the state vehicles and all the other stuff, so.
I like that same scheme, Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I like for everything to be consistent, and black and white is obviously a police color in my personal opinion. So, if, I guess we could put in the policies that all the cars we order from this point on will be black and white. Is that what you're requesting, sir?
Yes, I'm sorry. Ben Ray Lujan was trying to call me, and I just thought it was a crank call, so I sent him a funny text. Anyway, what were you saying, sir?
I said I like the idea of the black and white. Are you requesting that we start ordering all the vehicles?
Well, I mean, that's what you've got now, pretty much is black or white. I know that we've got some gold or whatever. I just think that we have a uniform presence, fleet-wide, but the more it looks like a police cruiser, I mean, you go all the way back to Mayberry RFD, and then you see it's a cop car, and then you see the state guys go by, and you know it's a cop car. So
Well, Mayor,
I just think it gives that visibility.
Mayor, you do got a gold that's a chief, so.
I do have a gold that's the chief, yeah.
Well, if I recall right, that the black and white, that Orange Chavez, Lieutenant Chavez was talking about as far as the grant, was that it pretty much required or asked us to go back to, the departments to have black and white vehicles, and that all tied into the insurance also. So that would reduce our rates, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes, sir, I think that is correct. Like I said, it's been quite a few years ago whenever I read it and researched it, but I know it was a requirement for that particular grant from the Department of Justice.
Okay. Anyway, we'll just keep that in mind. I know it's not really anything to do with your policy at this point, but we'll keep it in mind. I'm gonna step out and call them back.
You may not take it now.
Are you okay if we move on, Mayor? You want to?
Yeah, you guys go ahead and move on, please, and I'll be right back.
Counselor?
Where are we at?
We are getting ready to move into Department 101045, unless the chief has any other comments.
So,
No, the only other comment, council, is I guess we've been getting some complaints about the allergies and the carpet within the building. Apparently it's getting really musty and dirty. Some of the officers have been complaining that it needs to be replaced. I'm not too sure how old it is. Maybe LT will be able to elaborate on that. But at some point, I guess we got to start looking at that old carpet. It's a little dingy. LT?
I think it's been here since the building was constructed, so probably Counselor Salas, you would know better when the building was constructed in the 90s, maybe. I'm not really too sure.
It was in the 80s.
Absolutely, because
Oh, wow, okay. I didn't-
Moncor Bank,
If
they
they wore
went
their
down in
masks.
85, so
Yeah.
that building's been there for quite some time.
Yeah.
Them and every other.
So if you have 90s carpet, that means you upgraded it once.
Yeah, you're right. It hasn't been, I've been here just shy of 14 years, and it hasn't been upgraded in that time, so it was prior to that.
So Chief, is this where you're talking about separating building maintenance and stuff out of Department 40 and putting in 45? Is that my understanding now? Because I don't see anything in 45 for building maintenance or any of that stuff.
You want to answer that, Judy?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. On the next time you see this budget, there will be some funds allocated.
And the
for
line
maintenance
item,
and stuff. Yes.
line item descriptions on there. Okay.
Yes. We'll just take some of the money from the 040 accounts and move them to the, to this new department.
I guess Ben was busy, you were right.
At some point in
So the
time,
next-
Mayor and Council, I think we need to look at a more conducive building or reconstruction of that building or something.
Right,
Which one are we talking about?
the police department building.
I know it needs work on that inside big time.
They want to replace the carpet.
Oh,
I was wondering, with respect to that, being that the building is secured and closed, when they get ready to pull that up, they need to have that place wide open. I mean, whatever windows you have, doors for sure. The other thing I would take into consideration is that we not put down more carpet, that it be some type of hardwood flooring or vinyl or composite, something like that that can actually be cleaned, because they're going to be surprised when they pull that up, I think, in the flume that occurs. If there are people having health issues, they sure don't need to be there on that day or the next day until they really get the building aired out.
Right.
Oh, and I wondered, do they use the vault at all in that facility?
Mayor, if I may answer that, yes, the vault currently is utilized as our evidence vault. So we have it full of evidence at this point in time, and we obviously ran out of space in there. So that's where we kind of bled out the Sallyport 3 area, where we're utilizing that area as a vault in addition to the original vault. So yes, it's being utilized.
Thank you.
Chief, is that vault even constructed correctly to be an evidence room with all the requirements of an evidence room?
No.
No, sir. No, sir. Not at all. There's a lot of regulations that aren't being met. So I'm just guessing that years ago when we decided, whatever administration decided to utilize that as the actual vault. It's the most secure place within that building. So it was a good decision at the time, but a lot of restrictions and compliance that we're not following. So we need to definitely get that thing fixed as quick as possible.
That was a bank.
But if we have problems with evidence, that might come into play on convictions and stuff, if we're not handling it right. That needs to be done.
Yeah, oftentimes those rooms are constructed because you're dealing with, soiled clothing and,
Yeah.
you don't know, different blood, issues that they're dealing with.
Sure.
So the environment needs to be.
Ventilation as well, yes.
Yeah.
Didn't think of that.
Okay. Any other questions on Department 45? Moving on to Department 47, Consolidated Dispatch. My first question, Chief, is how many vacancies we have?
LT and Katie have been talking about that. I believe we're 6, LT, am I correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. We have one that we're making an offer to, so it's going to close our numbers up a little bit. But yes, we still have 6 positions that are currently open. Some of those positions did come whenever we merged with the Downs. They were vacant positions that the Downs had.
Right.
So that's where those numbers are coming from.
Okay.
But all of the consolidated dispatchers that moved from Red Osa Downs, when we consolidated last year, we don't have any of those people working for us right now, right, Lieutenant Chavez?
No, ma'am, we do not. That is correct. They came over and they were here for, I think, less than a couple of months, and then they moved on.
Yeah. I have discussed with Manager Dodge, Consolidated Dispatch Board. But I just feel like I need to bring this up because they were all very concerned about the salaries of the dispatchers, the consolidated dispatchers. And, when you look, Katie did have a schedule, and I had really requested to please have the schedule, or, like Taos and Santa Fe. communities that are kind of like us. She did get probably 20 communities, and we were right in the middle. We pay $15 an hour. Some of the bigger communities pay quite a bit more, and like Tim and I were discussing, it has to do with how many calls come in and everything, but they are having a very hard time getting dispatchers. And what, I know probably every one of us have gone in and sat down with Consolidated Dispatch and watched them work their shift, and it is quite, they're doing 10 things at one time, a lot of the times. And they're having a hard time with coverage. I know a lot of times at night, there's only one person on duty. And so I just, Tim and I talked about it, and he would like to look at more comprehensive on how many calls we have, look at other communities, how many calls do they have, what's the salary schedule. But I truly believe, and it was brought up, that, you can clean a house and make a lot more money than you do with Consolidated Dispatch. To
That's
me,
gonna
that's
be
a
our new
very,
improved minimum
yeah, to me,
wage is 50.
yeah, well, to me, that's a very important job.
Of course.
It's also, it's like being a teller, and you work with thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day, and you have to, at night, you better be 0-0 on balancing, and you make the least amount of money. To me, I think we get what we pay for. I think we need to be very careful with this, because they are having a very hard time getting people and keeping people. And there could be different issues going on that makes it that way. I'm not saying it's all about money, but I do know that it was brought up that, you can say, well, here's your salary, and here is insurance and retirement and all the wonderful package that the Village of Ruidoso provides to each department. And we could say this of each department. But Consolidated Dispatch, they work a lot of different hours. And I just think that we need to look at this. The Consolidated Dispatch Board is very concerned about this.
Do we pay a shift differential?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do pay shift differential on there.
I just wanted to bring that up because I think that that's very important in this, since we're doing budget. I just felt like that it was brought up with the board, and even Chief Gold was there. He really didn't say a lot, but Lieutenant Chavez was sitting there. So I just wanted to bring that up since I'm a board member, and I am concerned about it.
And I agree with you, Susan, and I had that question. I don't know if this is the right time, but overall, across the board, with minimum wages going to be increasing over the next 3 years, every year, are we setting up a plan to bring our base pay up too? Because looking at we're hiring the lifeguards, granted they're only temporary or seasonal, but it's almost as doubled of what we used to pay like just 4 years ago. For the same thing, they have to go get training. Where's the difference between the laborer and the lifeguard? Here's someone that's trying to be trained to save a life of drowning, but yet, they were only making $6.50 an hour. And now I believe they're like $11.25 an hour and stuff. And these are high school kids, so, and not to be prejudiced of age or anything there. So that's got me thinking about our bases, and Consolidated Dispatch is a perfect example. You know, if they're only making $15 and the lifeguard's here making $11.25, there's something wrong in that picture. Now, granted, you're right, they get benefits, because like we're looking at, yeah, the salary is $32,900, but the cost to the village, total expense is $59,000. You know, I understand that part too,
But a
but
lot of
yet,
the employees aren't looking at that
I
anymore.
know.
The younger employees don't look at the benefits.
I know,
And they should, because it is the village does have a great benefit package.
and that's how I've always explained to my employees that will come on.
Absolutely.
This is what it costs. Let's divide that by 2,080 a year, and that's what the pay is. So if you want to go back to making, less money, go right ahead, or more dollars at the hardware store, but less benefit, go right ahead. I'm all for advancement.
Well, we gotta pay enough to get them.
And that's a big point too. And I think that's, kind of across the board. I look at the fire department as well. Some of them are, while they work 2 jobs because of their scheduling and stuff, but again, it's something that we need to be looking at and planning for.
Well, again, and I have gone, Tim and I have talked about this, and he brought up some great points, and he did say that that they would do a look at different salaries throughout New Mexico. But I just felt like it was important, because I truly have,
Consolidated dispatch.
I truly have concerns that, that is an important enough job that if they get totally burnt out because there is only one person on at night, or they're having to work other people's shifts, they're taking time off, they have families, and I know that this is the position that they've taken, and so you have to look at all of this is what it is shift work. But I just worry that we're not going to be able to find people to be part of our consolidated dispatch. And again, I think you get what you pay for.
Mr. Mayor, I would agree with everything that's said. I think some other organizations have looked at this as well. I understand if you can get a job at Cornerstone and be paid the same as a dispatcher, that probably isn't equitable.
Well, but you don't get Class A, #1 gold standard insurance. You
Well,
don't get retirement. You don't get all those things. And so we're factoring all those things in. You don't get the incredible amount of leave.
You also don't get-
Vacation, sick, you name it.
you Also don't get cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the point made was earlier that millennials and many don't look at that, don't care about it. Now, if they opt out of having those benefits, which is a cost to the organization, perhaps there's a way that you can offer them a variable special pay that would up them up in their hourly rate, because they're probably not looking at retirement, they may or may not be, but down the road, for a younger group that's coming in that may have these training expertise, they may not care about that, or they may not even look at it. And the turnover right now is 3 years. I mean, not just with dispatch, with a lot of jobs. So I'm suggesting that to make it a little more palatable and more inviting, maybe for those that would waive the benefits, we should offer them a separate pay scale.
Can you waive benefits? I mean,
You can opt out of insurance
Yeah.
now. If your wife had it, you wouldn't have to have 2 insurance plans.
no, I get that.
Well, para's a condition of employment.
Yes.
That's part of,
You have to have insurance to belong to para.
you don't have to have insurance, but to work for the village, you'll be paying into para.
And one of the benefits to the village of providing health insurance is to help our employees stay healthy.
Absolutely.
I say that we work on our marketing plan, the Army does it, be all you can be, at least let it out there, because people have no idea what the village offers. Zero until they show up. And then a lot of people, and you can call it millennials or whatever, it's not that they care about the hourly more than they care about that. They don't really want to work a schedule. They want to come and go, and that's what we've talked about with some businesses downtown. They're having to modify the work schedule. And I just don't think that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, you know what, we're not going to have standard this or standard that anymore. I think that at some point we have to have consistency in requirements on what we're going to do. They are special now. We can look at the wages
Well, that's what
and see what that is. But I just think that, we do what we do and then modify it small, but I just don't know about.
But if we're there at a midpoint currently, if I understood the conversation before, maybe we need to go up in other organizations, you look at it by percentage. Maybe we should go to 75th percentile or maybe 90th percentile above what is the mean or the median, and look at that as a change up, because you have 6 openings and it doesn't seem like there's any rush for any applicant. And I don't know actually what the supply is out there in terms of those that are trained properly and could take the job. And then living here is not easy either.
Try living on
That's where I think
$15 an hour.
we're pretty much at 90+% of pay scale on pretty much everything, if not over 100, aren't we?
Not for this, we're not.
We're not?
Mayor, just to, before I comment on that, I need to fully educate myself on the issue. The scale that was provided to us wasn't there was no methodology behind the numbers that were pulled, so we need to analyze that a little bit better and come back and make a recommendation on how to fix this issue. At one time, we were told that we're having problems recruiting officers. Now everybody wants to come work here.
Well, we just put 3 on, we got more coming, but I knew that we had a couple of vacancies, but I didn't realize we had this many.
6.
This is the first I heard of it.
Yeah, Mayor, but if we can analyze that and then come back and make a recommendation to the governing body, I think there's some solutions that we come up with. But one of the things that I just want to point out, just as an observation for you all to, get a different perspective, and I don't even know if it's a different perspective, just to bring some realization to it. And, not to say that it's any different or good or whatever, or bad or anything, but a lot of the services that are being offered here by the village, with the same type of financial structure aren't offered in other communities. And what I mean by that is that normally dispatch centers are ran out of the counties. That's the way they're set up here in Rio Doso. Because of the coverage, it appears that we've taken on the dispatch services, and, Rio Doso Downs contributed to that as well. But when you look at the municipalities and the way that they're set up and the gross receipts tax increments that are allowed, the state statute allows the counties to implement a 1/8 tax for communication services. So the way that municipalities are set up, this isn't a traditional general fund function. This is something at some point in time that the governing body said, this is a need that's not being fulfilled because of terrain or whatever, and they decided to take this type of function on. The other one that's like that as well is your emergency management. Normally, those are funded out of, Homeland Security. It's matched to the county, and then it's shared countywide. So there's some non-traditional type functions that have been taken on by Rio Doso, and it's good. For this size of a community, normally you don't see a full-time fire department. It's a little bit bigger than this when you start seeing that. So there's some added services that the village has chosen to take on. And then at the same time, with the way that, you all have had to make up, for deferred maintenance in the past in the water system, some of those GRT options that have been put in place normally would be another general fund revenue. So, I think as we move forward, and, I think Judy and I have talked about this long term, we start looking at, how we alleviate some of those things like that have the deferred maintenance on the water system. I think we're moving in the right direction. at some point in time, we alleviate that and then put the resources in the right places, and it'll put us in a better position. What's good about this community is you basically, with a heavy recreation that's coming in, and you have additional people coming into the community, those additional people that are contributing to the community creates that surplus market that comes in that supports those extra services that you don't see in other communities. So, it's, what I'm saying is it's a balance, and comprehensively, we have to look at it and then come back with a good recommendation on how to approach it.
I agree, and then I think that we need to let people know that these are out there besides just putting on the marker board or ad in the paper. I don't know anybody that reads the paper anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna pay $1.50 for it now, is what somebody told me? Yeah, they're just not gonna do it, but, I don't know about the 32.9, but, I think that if we let it know that this is it may be a stressful job, you may have to do whatever on answering the calls, but I just think we need to market it and find out, just do the review like you said, and then get active on, because if we can attract police officers, we sure ought to be able to do this.
And Mayor and Council,
Everybody knows.
when we look at those vacant positions too, just like on the health insurance, we're budgeting 100% liability on that.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, it's 18,900 and that's on a vacant position. So, we end up seeing that. So, maybe we should focus on a goal of maybe bumping some of those up, having somebody, some of them working into a program where they're actually not maybe a full telecommunication officer, but studying to get into that 1 year period. We may start them at $15 an hour till they get certified and then increase that certification. There's a couple of different strategies we can look at and come back with a recommendation, Mayor.
Yeah. Because that surprises me. I thought we were down one or two, that a couple of ones that came in and quit. I didn't realize we had all the others. Well, I knew that one had quit because she had to.
But if you look at that total liability on even those vacant positions, it comes out to 79,874.
Where'd you see that figure?
You don't have the last column?
Well, which one are you looking at? I've got so many different things I'm looking at.
Well, I just felt it was important for me to bring it up.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I'm shocked that we have that many open. I had no idea.
That last column, the maximum liability, do you have that column?
No, we don't.
Are you talking about telecommunication?
Yeah.
All I have is in the last column, when you total it up, we've got 832,860 budgeted for salaries, total liability, total burden on that.
I just printed the schedule that ties into the budget worksheet, Tim. I didn't print out the max liability one that you guys had done.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
I'm
you got
looking-
the whole caboodle. We've got plenty of information here. I just don't have that one. So, but I see that they're fully funded, at 32.9 is what you've got them funded at with burden. And so that's what we've got in there, but I think that Councilor Letterman's right. We need to do find out just what the competing wages are. And then Councilor Jackson's absolutely right. It isn't that cheap to live here anymore.
It costs us to even start training them if they're not going to stick around. 'Cause they
Absolutely.
can make more money than we lose again.
But it wasn't but a year ago that I had two women calling and we were full. There was no room for them. I sent them to Hooker, how many people do you need? And he said, we don't need anybody. This was about a year ago.
See on the report I had put together for him there, I had him do these vacant positions. And then I came up with the total liability if the plans were fully implemented. Total liability on those vacant positions comes out of that.
80 grand.
Okay, the benefit plans. And that's what they don't realize is, and that's one of the things that we've talked about before, is why it becomes more feasible for us to offer overtime for some of these special functions like the WIBIT and snow removal, because the benefit package is so rich. You know, paying them overtime, that's the burden for the overtime is less costly than having to bring on another full-time employee.
Full-time employee. Yeah, I just didn't realize we had that many spots, my goodness.
So we'll come up with a recommendation on that, Mayor.
Okay. We're still, what, 3 officers down?
Yes. I think we got 3 officers, and then we got a couple other vacant positions, and
I'm gonna have this, didn't raise this time.
45.
Last time you said hi, Joe.
Any more discussion for
Hey.
consolidated dispatch?
Hello?
I just wanted to make one little point to remind you guys that on the personnel, the split between us and the city of Rio Doce Downs is the village pays 71% and the court pays 29% on personnel. And then on operations, which includes the supplies and services, we pick up 75% of the cost and the Downs picks up 25%.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, you know, one point that I want to make, and, you know, I didn't attend the consolidated dispatch, but, you know, the sheriff actually proposed to go to consolidated dispatch, and he wanted to house it. You know, it would never be my recommendation to give up our dispatch center, but we may consider bringing them in. And if we do bring them in, have them put that 1/8 in place, and then put the 1/8 towards the operations. You know, it'd be a county-wide, you know, 1/8 that would come to the communication centers, and that would help them and help us.
Yeah, they're definitely interested. They pay their employees significantly lower, and they're down employees as well. But, you know, I didn't get the feel like that they wanted to house at Lincoln County. They're just not sure that the communication for Horton is going to be sufficient enough for the county-wide. And, I mean, basically, he was kind of proposing that we find us a different building. And Ron and I pretty much said, well, that's the building that we really had figured on. So, but they are very interested.
But that's correct, Ron, there's that 1/8 that's dedicated to communication centers?
Yeah, I was, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council also had a regional dispatch center, and the county was able to, it was by election, they had the increment to be able to have that towards the dispatch center, and then as a municipality, we just had a joint powers agreement, and then we just paid an annual amount that was agreed upon in order to, and they provided dispatch services for the police department, the sheriff's office, and EMS, and all the emergency services, so.
So that's not a county imposed, that's a referendum. Is what you're saying? It goes through.
Countywide imposed by the county through referendum.
Because he was saying by election, so I thought maybe you were meant by, put before the voters as a
Yeah, it's a
referendum.
referendum.
Yes,
So we were paying the county?
no, this is a different entity
Oh.
that I was at.
Okay.
Now, once
Yes, the
that-
county had to have it, but by election, they had a vote on it, and it passed, and I'm sure the Lincoln County already has that imposed for their, already is in place, so I would think so.
Any other questions? Consolidated?
I have one real quick, and I'm, Mayor Pro Tem, Manager Dodge, just, food for thought, all the suggestions that all y'all were coming up were amazing. I don't sit down and talk, Manager Dodge, if we could talk about maybe eliminating 2 FTE slots and maybe increasing the rest of that, and maybe rest of the other employees' salary, maybe that might be a solution. Just an idea.
Chief, I was waiting for you to get back. We're gonna schedule a meeting.
Okay, no problem. No, I'm sorry. I know that we were gonna do that. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
That's all right. You have to be sorry. It's all good.
All good. Okay, we'll move into fire department 50.
Mayor Pro Tem, we will have a recommendation before we finalize for you all.
That'll be good.
Okay.
I am getting the body count. Let me, I forgot to get it. Hold on one second. So it has 22 FTEs in this department. And the only increases that I did see was for travel and schools and for vehicle maintenance. There were a little bit of bumps, but there were some cuts in other line items that kind of offset them. So, oh, and building maintenance. So those were the only three areas that I did see some changes in the amounts. And I'm not sure if anybody from the fire department is on the line. But I think the building maintenance is for the conditioning of the wood on fire station number 1, I believe.
Yeah, I was there yesterday. It definitely needs a.
Hey, Mayor Pro Tem, Manager Dodge, Judy,
Oh, there he is.
I just stepped in. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yes, Chief, thank
Okay.
you. And we
Yes, sir.
just started. Judy told us that you have 22 positions and all of those are filled, right?
We had two firefighters resign these last couple of 7 to 10 days. So, yes, they were full, but we're going to be hiring to fill those positions.
Okay,
And that's at those 22, that's 3 shifts of 6, 6, and 7. And then assistant chief / fire marshal, myself, and an admin position.
okay. Is there any questions for Chief Thetford from the council?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
I know that the EOC, our communication center just sent out an update to the fire. Chief, can you give us a brief update if you don't mind, Counselor, interrupting for a second?
Yes, please do.
Yes, sir. So the last update is it's still 0% contained, but it's holding. It's actually snowing up there. They're getting quite a bit of precipitation. Things are looking really good in our favor. We're just going to keep an eye on the wind and the thunderstorms, the thunderheads that are potentially moving in that could cause lightning. But at this time, everything is looking 100% in our favor, and we're just holding right now.
Chief, do you know any word on the evacuation areas as far as, like Nogel Canyon and?
So I know they're holding evacuations at this time to see what the fire does this afternoon, but from the looks of the smoke and the fire activity, it looks like what JW and Lincoln County Sheriff and Lincoln County is looking at a coordinated possible re-entry into that area late this afternoon or first thing in the morning, but that's not official, and they're going to talk about that in a meeting later on today.
Okay. Any questions for Chief Thetford?
Thanks for keeping us updated, Chief.
Yes. So, going back to the capital equipment, we'll discuss that later, right? Because I was going to ask the chief on equipment, or fire trucks or, you know, what's our status on that, replacement plan?
Judy, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we saw any major equipment requests from the fire department this time. Is that correct?
That is correct. As you recall, we just approved the purchase of the fire truck, I want to say 1 or 2 meetings ago.
Yes.
And that fire truck probably won't be here,
Till
I
March.
believe, Cody, March, right? March 2022, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So a year from now. And,
Yes.
and I guess my concern is that how these are taking a year, shouldn't we be starting to look at if we're needing to replace a fire truck or something and get the start on that is all, that's all I'm asking, Chief, our inventory of our trucks, what are we looking at, replacements of that nature?
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, as I've worked with Judy over the years, we ordered this truck. We will be requesting the same truck in a year. And we have 3 to replace, which are 3 main roll trucks. So if we try to do the 21, 22, 22, 23, and then the last one, 23, 24, Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, but our loan that we pay out every year, which is almost 100,000, right at 90, will be paid off in 2023 or 24, which will free up the money from our fire fund to help us in a savings account to work with Judy and the village to replace these trucks on a better schedule in the future. And so that's kind of been our hang up. That loan was a 15-year loan from 2009 or 10, I believe. So once we can clear ourselves of that debt, we're going to be in a lot better shape.
Okay, but the condition of the equipment we have now, it's adequate.
So the one truck that is being built is to replace the 2003. That is, you know, we're putting Band-Aids on it, but it is working. And then so on and so forth. The next 2 are 2008 and 9 models that are they're just aged and wore out. So that's what the next 2 will replace. Our ladder's in good shape. We've put on a few types with our RMP program. So if we keep that replacement plan going the next 3 years, we will be in good shape.
Okay,
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Council? I can't remember if it was this year or the year before. In the past, as you know, we get a fire marshal distribution. And in the past, the fire department was paying some of their operational expenses out of those funds. We have since made a shift to move all the operational expenditures that were getting offset against the allotment back into the general fund. And I believe it was like $50,000 in order to free up the fire marshal allotment so that we can actually reserve it for the purchase of the vehicles, because I know he was down so many trucks. And this past year, I believe Cody was at 400,000
Yeah.
that you were allocated. So
Yeah.
we're hoping by shifting those operational expenditures from the fire fund into the general fund, we're hoping that we can reserve that full amount of that state fire marshal fund and put it towards some kind of truck replacement plan, as Fire Chief Thetford was talking about.
And we have a couple of grants that we apply from the state that would help us with a couple of $100,000 towards those trucks. So with our savings, the grant, and if we had to come before the council and ask for anything, it would be minimal on the $500,000, $550,000 truck purchases. We would have 85+% of that to buy a brand new truck and would not put that burden on the village 100%.
very good. And Judy, I'm trying to look for the state fire fund. How much do we have in there now? Or is there just that 51?
It's the 209.
Yeah, but
It's actually Fund 209, and it's,
page what? On our packet.
53, 52.
Ron, can you find Fund 209 in the packet? I don't have the packet numbering in front of me.
52 and
52.
53.
Yep, Susan found it on page 52. For the state grants.
So this, so something, has changed in the past. They would give us all the money up front. Now they give it to us quarterly. So even though you look at year-to-date, 367, there's another 60,000 that's left to be distributed, in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year.
Okay.
So the actual allocation for the current year will go up to like 430,000. And off the top is like 80-some thousand that goes to pay the loan.
Yeah, we pay 88,000.
And that allocation is based on the number of fire stations, right, Cody? And
That's
your
right.
ISO rating.
ISO rating and everything that goes with it.
The rest of them are apartments.
Why don't you put it over there on this?
So at this time, we're gonna take a quick little, no, there's 4 of us. I'm sorry. I thought with John walking out, we were out of quorum. I forgot about you over there, Gary.
I know, I hide well.
Yes, you do. Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
this helps me go into the state fire fund line item. Okay, and any other questions for Chief Thetford on fire? None? What do y'all say we break for lunch before we go to P and Z? Because I got one question for Samantha.
You got-
Or do you want to go through P and Z, keep going?
What about emergency management?
Maybe until they come back.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got emergency management next.
Oh, emergency manager?
Yeah, as long as you got
Yeah,
Thetford on the
maybe.
line.
Yeah, I
Let me know
think,
if you need anything.
On page 23.
Oh, I'm sorry,
The next-
Chief Thetford, are you still there? Because now we got the emergency management department.
Yes, yes.
Him and Joe.
So this is Department 51, and it's 1 FTE. And so the only change that would be looking in this budget is for some travel in schools. Everything else looks flat.
And that travel in school just covers a lot of the homeland security and emergency management certification trainings that is a requirement by the state for us to take care of.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions for Chief Thetford on emergency management?
Where would that fleet manager come out of?
Judy, where did you budget the fleet management position in this department?
In airport,
Okay. Chief Thetford, you're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. We're trying. Appreciate the support.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Well, let's keep moving on then. Let's go to P and Z.
okey-doke, so that, so that contains, 7 FTEs. And at the time, that I was doing the budget, the STR, assistant was vacant, but, from what I hear you all saying, that position has since been filled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, we're looking at their budget,
So with that, is that 7 or 8? Or the?
still 7.
7.
7 total.
And Karen's already talking about trying to steal her into project management.
That's what happens, huh?
So the only thing that, looks like they're, in contract services is where, the cost for Buxton software is coming out. The software. And it looks like there's some engineering, for a new subdivision of 60 homes. That's included in the budget at 8,000. And then,
The professional services was my question to Samantha. What services are we, is that all of Zach or?
this one says chapter 54 rewrite, but I don't know if that's an additional or, if that's already the money that we currently have in the current budget. Because we already have, I believe, a contract for that. So I just needed some clarification.
27,000.
Yes, we haven't expended or been invoiced yet for Site Southwest, so that was just what's going to be carried over.
Oh, okay.
Plus the 27,000?
This, the
Yeah, that's what I know.
software maintenance, how come that went up?
From southwest, carried over the 27.
Samantha?
Right.
Oh, it looks like it's for CityWorks and Centricity, GIS.
It didn't go up, but that's for the ongoing use of CityWorks.
And Site Southwest?
On that one, Judy, that should just be a rollover.
Okay, I'll make note of it. Thank you.
Planning and zoning.
So let me ask my question again, Samantha. Who do we pay in professional services? I got CityWorks and I thought I heard Site Southwest.
Correct. Site Southwest is the one we have for the Chapter 54 rewrite.
That's professional services.
That's what I was asking. Who are we paying out of this line item? Because it's $100,000, but if I understood Samantha right, 27,000 of that's gonna roll over to this amount.
Samantha, I think you said that none of it was billed?
Yes, none of it's been billed. The entire 100,000 should roll over.
Well, they may bill you before the end of the fiscal year, so I would just zero that out. It's in your current budget, and then Judy will handle that as a rollover.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Yeah,
Judy.
I'll take care of it for you.
So we can just zero that one out because it's in our current budget. You all have
Yes.
already appropriated that money. And then if we get invoiced, we'll subtract that amount and roll over the additional.
Okay. That makes sense to me now.
Okay. Thank you.
And Counselor, the CityWorks conversation was in that software maintenance line item. That's where they're paying the CityWorks, and CityWorks is what they're currently using to, do all the task orders for the building inspectors and issue all the permits and everything out of it. It's a new software program that they transitioned over into permitting and everything.
So CityWorks isn't being paid out of professional services. It's being paid out of software maintenance.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have a question for Samantha in planning and zoning?
Mayor Pro Tem, one of the things I think we need to, consider how we're handling, and that's where her request comes in. I'm not even sure if that's going to be sufficient, but, the engineering services on how we're having to handle it, the way that the code currently reads, we have to have an engineer sign off on certain things.
Right.
And just like on that Remington, subdivision that came in, I think those costs should be built into the permit and should be charged back. So, in the future, I think that that's how we should handle it, as a budget adjustment, so we know what that real cost is.
Okay. That would be good.
We're anticipating it on the expenditure side, but on the revenue side.
But on the revenue side,
Yes.
adding that in through permit and,
And the building department's, been doing exceptionally well. And if you recall back on the revenue side, they had exceeded the revenues for the current year.
right?
And she was projecting that they would continue to bring in those revenues at that same level.
Okay,
With 3 months left, I think we had already exceeded the revenues coming into the community development department.
that's good. Okay, any other questions for Samantha? We'll move on.
Mayor, Pro Tem, I
Yes,
just have
sir.
another question. You talked about Buxton, Judy, I think you mentioned Buxton, where is that? I thought that was coming out
That was
of,
there in contractual services.
You can move it to software maintenance. I'll do that real quick. I'll just move it.
The whole 30,000?
Yes, sir.
we renamed it. Sam, you want to talk about the renaming of Buxton? Samantha?
Yes, our creative group with the agency renamed it Business Analytical Mapping System, and so they're calling it BAM. And I told Carrie, I was like, "You're just trying to make an infomercial out of this." You need BAM, call Sam.
That works for me.
You have to have a little fun with it, huh?
That is good. Once again, any other questions for Samantha? None? Let's keep rolling. I got next, the street department.
So it looks, this is where I usually do the snow removal, and it looks like I haven't done my journal entry yet for the quarter. So, this one, we only budget if we need it, and usually it comes through a rollover. As you saw this morning, when we rolled over the funds from those past storms. So this one is only on a needed basis, and it's based off of funds received in a prior year from snowstorms. So, this one, we don't normally budget unless we need it during the year. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one.
Judy,
Yeah?
weren't we also paying some of the COVID expenditures out of here as well? Or do you have?
I have a separate, project number for COVID. It's in Department 791.
And Mayor, Pro Tem, one of the reasons I bring that up is, one of the revenues that we haven't projected or put in here that we're going to be expecting to receive within the next, 60 days or so is on the Recovery Act. There's a direct allocation that's going to be coming to us. It's anticipated to be right about 1.8. And, again, that goes back to, previous expenditures that have been made, kind of like the CARES Act.
Right.
And as we recognize that money coming in, I would recommend that we look at funds like this, the snow removal and, some of those other operations and seed it, put some seed money in that so that we continuously have, money for those type of events.
That would be excellent. Because if it isn't snow removal, it's flooding damage
Yeah.
stuff.
So just food for thought.
So out of this one, this is where also Adam or Joint Utilities gets their portion for their snow removal, and what about Parks and Rec as well, or?
Yes, and even, you know, at times, some of the firefighters have came out to help us drive the snow plows and whatnot, and they
Right.
just, they bill their hours to this fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, Miss Judy.
Alrighty, we're moving on to Department 090, which is the Senior Center. And in this department, you have two FTEs, the supervisor and then the technician for the Senior Center. And this is Anthony Montes. So it looks like the budget was pretty much flat. In fact, he kind of cut some amounts, so. I know he did get an additional money for the RSVP grant program that will be in Fund 219, so I'm not sure if that's why he cut it or not.
So in this, you know, that's one of the things that we did do is, you know, because we added that FTE that's going to be working on that program, they had money enough to cover a full-time position or a half-time position.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're sharing a full-time position between the Parks Department and Anthony's department. You know, so that was that change, remember, Judy?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
So instead of just hiring a part-time person, we're hiring a full-time person that'll be shared between two departments.
Okay.
Where,
So in the past, the RSVP grant that the state used to give us wouldn't pay the full cost of Judy Sarabia's position. So the village general fund would kick in like $30,000
Right.
to fully fund that position. Well, now Anthony has received a federal RSVP grant that will pick up not only the cost of Judy Sarabia's old position, but it'll pay a portion of Anthony's salary also. So the freeing up of the monies that the general fund used to contribute, plus a portion of Anthony's salaries, are the funds that are used to fund the position that Tim was talking about.
And instead of, you know, asking the directors to, you know, go out and raise money to do grants, and then they, you know, get the position funded through a grant, instead of taking money away from him, we're making sure that he's held full and giving them those extra resources.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if Anthony's on call, but Judy, he mentioned to me something about reimbursing or having a fuel allowance for our volunteers. If they request, are we setting that up in here?
So he's gonna pay a mileage reimbursement to his volunteers that will be paid out of the RSVP grant, which is in Fund 219. And I believe he has funds set aside for that. I'm not sure. Ron, can you tell me what the page number on the agenda packet is for 219?
73. Page 73.
Oh, okay.
I just don't remember volunteers requesting for fuel reimbursement or per diem.
That is something new with this new federal grant. They are allowed to, you can reimburse them for transportation costs, and it's not taxable to the RSVP volunteer. We just got the federal regulation that tells us how to treat the funds. And I guess it's based on so many cents, I guess, per miles that they drive, the other, RSVP users, I guess. So they will get, I guess, like a monthly stipend.
It's on page 74. This is the travel and school line item.
I'm not exactly sure where he has it budgeted in the grant, though.
Well, in Department 90, that's where I see the fuel.
Pro Tem,
Oh, there he is.
yes, I've been here and I've been listening, council, Judy, Manager Dodge. The budgeted amount in that area is gonna be under Contractual Services, which is under, 219090. I have set aside, the amount of $10,000. We're unaware how many volunteers out of the 190 plus volunteers that we have are gonna want the mileage reimbursement, so I set aside $10,000 there to, cover that.
Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Back up from your mic or mute or lower your volume, because you're coming in pretty staticky.
Okay. My apologies. Does this sound better?
A little bit, but
Yeah, I don't know why it's sounding so bad.
okay. Well, just try to talk a little slower, I guess, because it's coming in pretty staticky.
Okay.
Anthony, why don't you try to call me on my cell phone?
I can do that, Manager Dodge. Let me dial you up right now.
Don't forget to mute yourself on your computer or else you're gonna get feedback.
Okay. All right. And I actually need your number. If you wanted to call me, Manager Dodge, on our work phone.
He needs your number.
I don't have your number. My number is 575-781-0220. 781-0220.
575.
781.
Could you repeat that again, Manager Dodge?
781-0220. There you go, Anthony.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
sounds
yes.
A lot better.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so I was under the line item 219090, 52000. I had set aside $10,000 under contractual services for the mileage reimbursement. We have over 190 volunteers, and with our program, I was unsure how many of those volunteers were going to actually want to claim the mileage reimbursement, since this is new to our program. So that's why I set aside so much there to actually have enough to cover these amounts if they all do want the mileage reimbursement. But that's where it's at. It's under the 219090 budget.
Okay. But in past history, Anthony, I've never remembered getting requests for per diem or mileage reimbursement, correct?
Mayor Pro Tem Salas, there has never been a volunteer that has actually requested this reimbursement in my past working with the program. However, we never had enough funds in our program to actually offer this. I know that our area, Lincoln County, is what the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program covers, and a lot of these volunteers travel to rural areas. So it's a great benefit to the volunteers to be able to actually claim this if they are able to. because, the wear and tear on their vehicles and the gas prices have skyrocketed so much that this is a benefit that the program can offer. Since the federal program has offered us much more funds for this RSVP program, I figured that it would be in the best interest to offer this to the volunteers, because we offer recognition events, gifts, and stuff like that. But
I've seen that
offering
offered in Las
that
Vegas.
mileage reimbursement might actually invite more volunteers to our programs to actually volunteer in areas, because there's a lot of traveling that goes on with this program.
So, do you know, or I guess, Tim, will we follow the state per diem costs?
I think it's the federal reimbursement rate on the mileage.
Okay,
In Las Vegas, I remember that they used to do this with their volunteers up there with their program.
so it's just based off mileage, not necessarily state per diem?
Right. I think it's the state mileage rate. I mean, the federal mileage rate, I think it's a little different than ours.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what that is. We could look that up
You know what
later.
that rate is, Anthony?
Manager Dodge, Mayor Pro Tem Salas, I do not know what that mileage is. According to the federal program, which is AmeriCorps, they had stated to us that we could follow our own guidelines according to our mileage that we are reimbursing within the village of Ruidoso, is the way I understand it. I could get more information on that, as me and Judy Starkovich have been going back and forth trying to figure this part of the process out come the new fiscal year. But the way I understood it is that we follow what the village of Ruidoso does for mileage.
So Mayor Pro Tem, the federal mileage rate at January 2021 is 56 cents a mile.
But that's state. Is that-
Federal.
I knew they're a little bit higher than us.
Okay.
We're at 52, I believe.
Any other questions for Mr. Montes? Hey, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
Shippen and I have been enjoying the exercise equipment there, and I was really pleased that you got every person that comes in that follows the COVID compliances and wiping down equipment, and the facility looks really great. So great job on you and your staff over there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. We were trying to follow all guidelines, and we're very proud of this center and what we've accomplished with it. So I'd like to thank you all for actually helping us out with it also.
And Anthony, the church, the Episcopal Church thanks you for the use of your kitchen while we're still under construction.
Yes, sir. That's great that you're all able to utilize it. That's what it's for. So this is awesome.
Anthony, me and Ron are going to have breakfast on Friday.
I still yet to make that. I gotta get there.
Yeah, we've been waiting for everybody to actually show up and come and visit us and kind of hang out with us. That would be great to have you all.
How do you do that, Anthony, do you only let 10 people in, or how do you do that?
Percent, I thought.
Oh, is it? 100?
Okay, yes, actually, the way it works is our capacity, we can only have 33% in there, which means about 30 people with our staff of 3 people. So we are allowed to have 3 people. We have the social distancing in place. The tables are spread apart, and masks are required, of course, unless they're eating. So in our breakfast, we do not actually have that many people coming to the breakfast at this point, and they are scattered within an hour and a half time frame. So we never get that many people in there at once. Our lunches on Wednesdays, we're having to reserve spots for only the 30 people since they all congregate at the same time.
Oh, I
That's
see.
how we handle that process.
What, are you having your mahjong and bridge come back?
No. Some of them are.
Anthony,
Yeah,
Are your
it
bridge
was hard to
club
hear.
coming back?
Yes, there is mahjong. They are playing mahjong on Fridays.
Right?
And there's only a group probably about 8 of those people that actually show up. So it's not an entire big group.
Right.
I know a lot of our programs are kind of holding back up and coming back to the center because masks are having to be worn all of the time. So that's kind of holding people back. But they got a little small group going at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Anthony? No? Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Manager Dodge.
Since the mayor came back, I'm gonna request for a lunch recess.
I'm good. Is everybody else good? Okay. We will recess for what, 30 minutes?
At least, yeah.
Okay, recess for 30 minutes.
Thanks for bringing that. Yeah. Well, was it on in our computer? Yeah. Or was it a PDF that was in our mail, or was it? Because I looked under,